Today's comments come live from a sauna. This is just ridiculous. I can barely even, I'm from Stockport. I'm not created for temperatures of 33 centigrade. So we did one of these comment roundup videos a few weeks ago and we said we're gonna keep doing them. So this is gonna be a little regular feature every 3 or 4 weeks. So we're gonna get stuck right on in with your comments, the good, the bad, the not so good, and the occasionally quite ugly. George Walker, hello. The comments on here are utterly horrific and saddening regarding Owen's assault and make me worry for British democracy. Full solidarity to you, Owen, and keep fighting for what you believe in. Very much appreciated, George, but as the ancient proverb goes, the internet gonna internet. Quick recap, basically, I was out with my mates having a little nightcap for my birthday. A group of 6 of us left, and then this group of men charged 3 of my friends to get to me, kicked me to the ground, and tried to separate me from my friends, and in the midst punched 3 of them, which I'm not happy about because I understand being mates with me has its downsides, my appalling taste in music being one, an overuse of Alan Partridge references. Being punched in the face is a bit excessive. Now, in terms of what I call the far-right ecosystem, there's been 2 responses. One has been, ha ha ha, got him, the little lefty so-and-so. The other, though, has been this massive and burgeoning online truther movement, which is this attack never happened, that I've invented it for political means. And I mean, there's a lot of effort being put into these videos, some of which have gone viral, tweets and so on. Some go through my body language to show how I'm actually lying and being dishonest. And you kind of think, should I just ignore them? They're absurd. They are whipping their sympathisers into a frenzy, many of whom are acting out some pretty explicit violent fantasies. Now, I can't comment on an ongoing police investigation because I would facially undermine the investigation. So there are things that I can't actually say. But needless to say, this whole truther theory rests on the Metropolitan Police conspiring with a left-wing journalist to fake an attack. Now, I'll leave the online truthers to it. The key thing I've emphasised since it happened is that this isn't actually about me. I'm fine. I'm genuinely just completely fine. I've said that from the beginning. Mentally, physically, completely fine. My worry is about the rise of a far-right, emboldened and legitimised by mainstream politicians and many mainstream media outlets, which have whipped up hatred against Muslims, migrants, refugees, minorities, and the political left, or whether it be the repeated far-right attacks, including murders, which often get very little media coverage, less media coverage than I got as a white guy with a media platform. So all I'd say is that should be the focus. That's what I want the focus to be on. And that is my response to the tinfoil hat wearing weirdos. Ibram X. Kendi, I interviewed him, brilliant anti-racist historian and writer. Now, I thought he would provoke a response, and that's good, it's part of a debate.
Racist ideas have always been murderous. They've always killed people, let alone harmed and demonized.
One of the main things people are focusing on, like Ben Dowson, you can't believe in capitalism and be anti-racist, what complete nonsense. Ben, I was agreeing with everything he said until you said you can't be anti-racist without being anti-capitalist. What he was talking about is how capitalism and racism have gone hand in hand since the emergence of capitalism. And indeed, you can't understand modern racism without looking at the history of both colonialism and the slave trade. And what capitalism has fostered, if you look at the US in particular, is this divide and rule, this attempt to divide up working class Americans who actually have economic interests in common, whether they are white or black or Latinx or Asian Americans or Muslim Americans. Minorities are scapegoated for injustices caused by those at the top. So that's what he's talking about, how modern capitalism, how racism is caked in. And I think if you look at the history of capitalism, which is what he has done, I think that case is pretty unanswerable. Ewan Will, interesting interview. Ewan is curious about the reparation talk. He thinks it sounds extreme. Is he saying rich Western countries should give money to poor African countries, or proposing some kind of white tax on wealthier white people? The latter sounds crazy and one could say even racist. No, that's not what he's saying. So what he's saying is the legacy of racism in America has left a vast wealth gap between white Americans and African Americans, the median wealth being 10 times greater for white than black. So I would look at it as reparations, this sense of we want to fix the great injustices caused by the legacy of slavery, which African Americans disproportionately suffer from, but we will also help everybody, regardless of their race too. Stevie Rocks commenting in our video about the coming general election. Boris is not as popular as Theresa May. That's him quoting me. What planet are you on? Utter nonsense. Stevie boy, I think you need to go back and look at that video. What I was talking about is when Theresa May called the general election on April the 18th, 2017. Her polling back then was spectacular. She had better polling when she called the general election than Tony Blair or Margaret Thatcher at their very peak. Now, Boris Johnson currently does not have poll ratings anywhere near as good as Theresa May. His net favourability ratings are negative. He has very, very bad polling amongst certain groups of the population, not least younger people. He fares badly amongst women. And also the Conservatives polling, although at the moment he's benefited partly from some of the Brexit Party coming back, he's nowhere near as much ahead of Labour as Theresa May was when she called the general election. Print me up. Hello. Going for the man Boris Johnson and not his policies, then we lose. Do not give him the personality platform, that's what he wants. Look, I agree, obviously we need to talk about what he actually represents. That does include talking about things he said about Muslims, for example, about gay people, because you can't just say that's about personality, that's about what he actually believes in. They look after themselves, they look after their own. That's what Boris Johnson and his kind do, but it will be everybody else who suffers. And that is about talking about politics. William King, I'm a Corbyn supporter, but the idea we're going to win people over to the Labour Party by running a fuck Boris protest bewilders me. Surely the way to go is to focus on critical policies like inequality, foreign policy and wars, health, education, rather than obscene insults and name calling. So what we need to do, William, is infuse younger people who will come out and knock on doors, go into their communities and get people to vote. That's what that protest was about. It's about galvanising people. Many of them feel scared, they're worried. You know, they're on the receiving end of the policies of this government and they need some hope. And a lot of these protests will be a bit kind of quirky, a little bit wacky. That protest itself is very colourful, it was young, it was diverse, it had lots of very creative and funny banners, and it was about getting people involved in politics and prepared to fight back. You've got to let younger people design their own protests and ways of getting involved in politics on their own terms. Thomas Harvey, why is YouTube recommending these videos to me? Well, Thomas, it's because I've done a little curse on you and you're going to be stuck seeing my face forever. So we did a video where we chatted with some bisexuals in this room. It was less hot that day, but we had ice lollies. Why don't we have any ice lollies? Now, Alex, you haven't actually come out to your parents yet, have you?
Hi, Mum.
Oh. Blimey, yeah. Wow. Alexander Welburn loved this format and video. You should do a talk with people with hidden disabilities. I personally kept my OCD in the closet for a long time because of the discrimination. I saw people almost casually engaging in around me. I'd be happy to be part of this conversation if you did. Alexander, it's a really interesting idea. I'd really like to do more of these chats talking about things which aren't properly spoken about. And I learned things about being bisexual which are actually really tough that, you know, me as a gay man didn't understand, let alone, I would imagine, straight people. So I'd love to hear some more ideas. What are the sorts of kind of things we should be talking about where a group of people who don't normally get a platform can chat together in a friendly environment? Thanks everyone for your comments. Really fascinating as ever, most of them. Keep those comments coming. We'll be doing more comment videos. Also, give suggestions for interviews. As you know, we are preparing for a general election. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the sorts of videos we should be doing during the coming election, and who we should be talking to, ideas for issues, all that kind of stuff. Just let me know. Lots of love, as ever. Subscribe, spread the word. I'll see you next time.